always wanted, in some ways, to be a teacher. But not necessarily knowing what I had to teach. And I certainly wanted to teach this practice because it seemed to be the most important thing I had stumbled upon or discovered in my lifetime. And I kept asking Rudy, can I teach? And he kept saying, you're not ready. And I didn't know why I wasn't ready. A lot of other people were teaching, and I felt as ready as they were, but I totally respected his feelings. Some years after Rudy died, and I was in Bloomington, Indiana, and walking down Kirkland Avenue with Michael Shoemaker. And I just kind of rather boldly said, you know, Michael, I'd like to start teaching. And I was completely prepared for him to say, you're not ready. And what I really hoped for was for him to tell me why I'm not ready. What am I not doing? And he said, okay, start tonight. And I went, I mean, it was like, you know, the idea of mind blowing. And I kind of said, well, what do I do? He said, you'll find out. I said, well, what are the instructions? What's the manual? How do I figure this thing out? And he said, just sit there. And I sat there that night. We used to have about 70, 80 people in the room. And I just sat there, and to my amazement, I knew exactly what to do. And it really wasn't that I, Bruce Rubin, knew what to do. I just knew, get out of the way. Get out of the way. And then I just sat back and let the teaching happen, which it did. The energy flow, which is what it was, went from me, this person, to everyone sitting in that room, and it had distinctive quality. It had energetic aspect. It felt like it was doing something, and I had nothing to do with it, but I sort of understood the moment that the connection occurred, that the teaching transpired, that there was an announcement to me that I had done it, or it had been done, and I could move on to the next person. And the feeling that was transmitted was a feeling of something we all know, or just a sense of when we said the right thing to somebody and you know they got it. Or when you put the flower in the right place in the vase and it goes, oh, that's perfect. Or you take a bite of something for dinner and you know, oh my God, that's perfect. Whatever it is, you know, for me, the nectarine taste, you know, I mean, so many nectarines aren't ready. But when you bite into one that's ready and it delivers, there's just knowing. That's how it was meant to be. That's why nectarines were created, for that moment, for that taste, for that juice, for that fullness, for that breadth of deliciousness that occurs. And that's what teaching is. It's moving into each of you for a moment and tasting that ripeness, tasting the fruitiness, the juice, the flow, the feeling that we have communicated something that is in a way perfect, right in the moment. And it's a gorgeous, wonderful feeling. And I have continued over the course of what's now 50 years to keep doing this. There's a probably daily occurrence in which I go, what qualifications do I have to be a teacher? I am exactly like everyone else. I wake up in the morning tired, wish I could sleep longer, hungry. I force myself to do the right thing every morning, to do the exercises to do. The make the bed, as Rudy said, make your bed every morning. I struggle to do that. I still feel resistance, but I overcome resistance now, not with any magical quality. It's just I do it. I do the thing that's in front of me. When I don't know what's in front of me, exactly what the next thing is, I kind of check in. I don't exactly stop, but I know the directive of the next thing will come. And if you just pause a moment, there will be this thing inside you that says, go downstairs, pick up that piece of paper that's on the floor that shouldn't be there, go in the kitchen, turn the light on, do these different things. And I just do, okay, just follow the game plan, the rules. And I know that there is a game plan of sorts, and there are rules, and there is a kind of announcer inside me that tells me what to do, and I rely on it because my own mind over the course of 50 years has become less reliable. I am getting old. I can feel age having a real impact. I can feel, it's not quite dementia, but it is definitely old age. I told Blanche the other day, I feel like I've just moved from my 70s to my 90s. I don't know, I think it's a corona moment, but it feels like I have somehow skipped my 80s. And I feel kind of like I'm doddering around. And I don't know what to do with that or make of it or whether it will last. But it is definitely a sense that my faculties are not what they were. I certainly sat down today to teach feeling unequal to the task. I had a hard night sleep. I've had a number of hard night sleeps. I've talked about that a little bit, and I don't want prescriptions from all of you, so you can put that out of your mind. It was a hard night. I have something called neuropathy. Could be diabetic neuropathy. Oh, this feels somewhat connected to my compressed nerve in my neck, but it just wouldn't let me sleep. It was like constant pain, flashing, and it's really unpleasant, and it's all not unexpected. At a certain age, things start to happen as you disintegrate as a physical form, and you forget how unpleasant it is. And somebody had recommended some years ago this thing of Ativan. It's a pill to help you sleep. I do not want to become a drug addict, and I don't want to become reliant on pills. And everybody, as soon as I say this, is going to recommend their pills. But Ativan is actually effective, and I try to use it as sparingly as possible. But the other night, I could not sleep at all and was in nothing but raging pain, like I'd never known before. And I have had to take away all pain medication, like Tylenol and Advil or whatever those things are, Motrin, because I'm having this operation on Thursday to take this problem in my neck. I have a disc that's pressing down on a nerve so completely that there's only 1% of the nerve working, and they're going to put in a spacer to make that work again, which will be very helpful. But in trying to deal with biological, physical discomfort in a time when there's so much emotional, political, cultural discomfort, just a lot weighing on one. And so the other day, I have acquired through a friend a bottle of CBD oil. Forgive me for making this so personal. I hope this isn't a total waste of your time, but it goes somewhere. And I was sent a bottle, and I think I talked about it before because I took it once many months ago, and it had a very powerful effect, and I thought I was dying. And I didn't know it had THC in it, and I was surprised by that, and it had a very big LSD type effect at that point in time. And at that time, I talked to you about it, and I said, well, I'm not going to die at this point. I'm going to choose life, which I did gratefully. Well, this diabetic neuropathy was so painful, I thought, okay, let me take 1/8 of a teaspoon full. I mean, like a microdose, I think you would call it. and see if that helps. And I took it, and nothing helped. It didn't do anything at all until 5 hours later. And I'm sitting with my wife, with Blanche, having dinner, and suddenly the room began to expand in all these psychedelic ways. And I said, oh my God, this stupid thing is kicking in now. And what do I do with this other than, you have to kind of go with it. And I thought I'd sit in a chair and just sort of waft out into wherever it took me, but I didn't want to waft out anywhere. And then I thought, as I have expressed in the past, that this may be my ticket out, and maybe I'm dying. So I said, okay, I know this is a time where death is so prevalent on so many levels. I said, I built this new room in my house, the sunroom, as a place to die in my old age, supposedly, well, 77. I thought, if I'm going to die, I'm going to go be in that room. And so I walked into that room, and I have this huge Buddha tanka, which a lot of you know. And I just walked up to the tanka, and I said, okay, here I am. What do we do? And then I felt my hands going to each of my chakras, and they just opened like they do when I teach, but even like more. This vast opening that started to take place on top of my head and my third eye. And I looked at this tanka of the Buddha, and the Buddha totally separated, all the colors separated. The entire tanka opened up like a doorway into another universe. And it was like going, come on, we're ready. And I went, it was so beautiful. It was really, the colorations were beyond belief. And then I kind of got this thing again in myself, which is, really? Now? Do I take this step into the Buddha tanka? And forgive me, all of you who think I should have, but I stepped back and I said, nope, not yet. And this voice said to me, okay. And I said, well, now what? And it said something which it felt important to communicate to all of you and to myself. And the voice said very distinctly, just live. Just live. Forget all of this stuff. Forget the big picture, the small picture. Forget everything about it. Live, live. And I walked into the kitchen and I told Blanche, I'm going to wash the dishes. And I'm stoned out of my mind on some level, but I'm also very present. And I just started washing the dishes. And I have to say, washing the dishes felt like such a gift. The hot water, the cleanliness of the dish drainer, the idea of putting things away, the idea of standing next to my wife, the idea of being in this house that I still don't know how I got here. I have no clue what I'm doing in this house, in this space, in this part of the country. I am so out of time and space. All I'm doing is washing the dishes. And I washed them with a level of joy that I had never known. And then I thought, well, now what? Well, usually Blanche and I get on, she goes on the treadmill at night and I go on the bicycle, having already done my treadmill. We do a lot of exercise. And we went downstairs and we usually watch Breaking Bad and the news. And I thought, I cannot watch Breaking Bad in this mindset. And it was the night of the convention. And I thought, what could be more boring than watching the convention? But I said, okay. And we turned on the television and I am watching this unbelievably unexpected celebration of human life. What it means to be alive, what it means to have hope, what it means to see light instead of darkness, what it means to call out dark forces when they're there, what it means to be celebratory, what it means to have hope for the future. It just amplified all of that. And I sat on that bike and I just pedaled and pedaled and pedaled and pedaled like I was moving through the entire country. And I have to say, every bit of it, from the national anthem to the point where they stopped at every state to nominate for the president of the United States. All the pieces of it were so uplifting and ennobling and clarifying. And a part of me, the voice came in and says, well, what if this all falls apart? What if it fails? What if very terrible things happen? And it said, shh, shh, you're not there. You're not there. Be here now. Pedal. Observe. Stay open. Something in front of you is opening up as a celebration of the life that we know of as the good life. Kindness prevailing, diversity prevailing, hope, love, community, all the things I've talked about were all there on the screen. And I was just simply a participant in that. And the words that kept reverberating in my head and continue to is just live. I know all of us have a spiritual component which makes us feel in some way protected, in some way deeper than the struggles of human life. We can go somewhere to feel a kind of assurance or an embrace or a release from struggle. We get all of that. And I understand why we want that and how, in a way, privileged we are to have it. On the other hand, and I will say this, and I've been saying it a lot recently, it's a false protection. Not wrong, not inappropriate, meaningful and valuable, but it does not save you from reality. It does not save you from the unfolding of the yin and yang that we are all immersed in. It is all going to come at us. One way or another, we are in it. We are living in it. And the instruction for me was just live. I go from that very easily and not unnaturally and not unfamiliarly to Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane. Christ has always been a great guide for me. And forgive me this, a good Jewish boy who's trying to figure it out. And he's standing in the Garden of Gethsemane and he's saying, take this cup from my lips. He does not want to go forward into the reality that's waiting for him. And I don't blame him, and I am not dissimilar. I don't really want to go into the world that appears to be possibly coming. Now, there could be a wonderful, gorgeous, total rebirth and retransformation of us as a human species. We could also end up in the incredible fracturing of yin and yang and the dramas that go on between people who are not easily reconciled. Anything can happen. My feeling is I don't want to bite into that reality. I don't want to have to go forward into the pain and suffering that appears to be very possibly awaiting me. On the other hand, the directive for Christ and the directive for all of us is just live. Take the next step. The next step for him was horrifying. The next step for us may be horrifying. I don't know. And then he became scourged by the world. And I have to say, I have never been scourged by the world, but if you ever have neuropathy, a kind of constant electric shock going on in your body that will not go away and will not go away and will not go away, will not let you sleep, will not let you do anything except suffer, I get a vague feeling for that kind of suffering. It's not even that vague. In the middle of all of his suffering, and again, forgive me, I know this has been said 1,000 times, but he felt abandoned. All of his spiritual practice, all of the teaching, all of the years of being a voice for the holiest of holies evaporated. And he had nothing. And let me just alert you to that. At some point, you will know, and I know I will know, we have nothing. Not only do we have nothing, we are nothing. And we will feel abandoned and lost and frightened and all of that stuff that is human. because we are just living, and because being a biological entity, you have no choice to be just living until you're not living. But the key of the teaching is that hanging on the cross, Christ looked out over all of those tormenting him. And in some radical transformation from his own suffering, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And in a certain sense, we need to forgive the world, the ignorance, the improper behavior, the evil, the dark, the wanton. We have to, at some point, forgive it, even when it is robbing us of everything we love, of everything, our breath, our children, our grandchildren, our experience of trees and clouds and ice cream, and it's taking all of that away. We have to go, forgive, they know not what they do. It may not be personal for us. You might actually be criticizing God itself for giving you pain and giving you suffering. But at some point, you have to go, forgive, forgive, forgive. And then something happened to Christ, and I think it's the promise of the Christ teaching, it's the promise of spiritual work. Something happens. I cannot tell you exactly what it is, but I can be predictive of it. And that is, an opening happens, a light shines through, a blessing arises, something reaches out, and you go, "Into thy hands I commend my spirit." And you reach up into the depth of that truth and that reality, and you finally let go. Just live carries you to that moment. Just live brings you to that moment. At that moment, just live will no longer be an operating procedure. Just live goes up until that moment, and then you commend your spirit to something greater. Getting to that point, we have to live this life of yin and yang, good and bad, not wanting to drink from that cup. And right now we're all facing, I think, a time where we do not want to drink from many of the things being offered in front of us. The life being presented is not the life we dreamt of, the life we hoped for. There's so many forces in it that are really problematic. If you want to be reasonable with it, you can still buy ice cream. You can still go for a walk. You can still breathe the air. You can still lay back and take a nice nap. You can read a good book. You can listen to music. You can talk to friends. You might even be able to be, if you're not too risk adverse, able to get together with friends in small numbers. You have an ability to still live, just live. And it's not only not bad, it has unbelievable poignancy. It has unbelievable richness, because just living turns out to be a very simple act. Showing up and feeling this connectivity, this love, this gratitude for the tiniest little things imaginable. Everything is exquisitely right and beautiful. And we are so blessed to be part of those gifts. And so, I go into the hospital on Thursday, and probably for a routine operation. I may not come out of it, because I'm so obsessed with transition at this point that maybe that is the transition. I don't think it is. But if it is, then my parting words to you are, one, you are and have been deeply loved, not just by Bruce, really, but by that thing that has opened up in Bruce through Rudy, through years and years and years of just simple practice. It loves you. It's not, I really do love you, but it loves you. It will love you, and it has no end at all. It is a constant, and it will always be there. So you'll never feel less than loved. If if Bruce doesn't come back from this operation, and again, I know I'm projecting like a Hollywood screenwriter, but if I don't come back from this operation, I am as ready as necessary to make the journey outward. I was talking a little bit to my grandchildren. My granddaughter started crying, and my grandson Elijah said, "Well, I'm going to get a really nice suit for your funeral. I'm going to be so dressed up." And I was like, "Wow, okay, he's got it worked out." And I know, we do what we can to make ourselves ready. There is no perfect moment to leave. There is no Hollywood ending to the stories of our lives. But there is this thing of wanting to have your moment to just announce to those you love that you love them, that you care, that you have unbelievable gratitude for their partnership in your life. And I feel that literally for all of you, and will. And if this is the last will and testament, then I guess I'll just say live, just live. I've made 400 talks, I think. So it's not like I'm not leaving anything behind. You can always go back and dig into those talks. They're all somewhat informed by the Rudy experience, by the journey into oneness with yourself. They're all a directive into how do I find my way in so that I can get in touch with the message, that I can get in touch with the guidance system, that I can live my life as an expression of something greater. There is something in us that wants to guide us through the day-to-day. If you follow it, life will have a certain alignment that I promise you is an exquisite way to live. And that's kind of what you get. And all it will tell you is live, but live accordingly. Live with the directive. Live basically being kind, even when your mind and body reject it, being good, loving, available, reaching out, serving others, being an emanation of this directive for the world. As much as you can, as much of the world as you can. You don't have to reach everybody, maybe just one or two other people, it doesn't matter. But be a vessel of giving and let the light shine through. That's your job. It's not that hard, honestly. It's really not that hard. And if you ever forget how to do it, you just sit still. Go for a walk. Be quiet. Turn off the TV. Put away your book. Don't read the newspaper. Just be quiet. And don't even try to think your way into how do I do this and what should I do? It's not about that at all. Turn that off if you can. Just really, literally go for a walk by yourself. And when you come home, you will have found something. And if you haven't found anything, you'll have at least prepared the groundwork. So maybe in the middle of the night, the discovery will announce itself. All of you have been on this path for a reason. And the reason is very simple. Be the vessel of what you have been given. Share it. Open it. You don't have to teach it, although you're welcome to do that. You can just live it. Live it, demonstrate it, be a living presence of this deep inner directive. And you will have a remarkable life. It will not save you from the finality of life. Nothing will. You will have to drink that cup. You will suffer. You will feel abandoned. And you will, if you're lucky, suddenly go from your own loss into compassion for others, which is the great turnaround of the inner psyche. And in reaching for the love of others and serving others in the last moment, a light will come down and you will reach up to that light and offer yourself into the hands that are waiting for you. You will commend your spirit. That's it. That's our journey. If I don't get another another opportunity to talk to you, I'm happy to leave you with this. If I do get another opportunity to talk to you, it'll probably be the same talk. On and on and on and on and on. And you know, every one of you is welcome to tune out anytime. If I have one person sitting in front of me, I'll give the same talk. If I have 20 people, I'll do 20 people. But I really, really love you and really honor you and am so grateful for you because you allow this teaching to happen. And Rudy said, you know, what is a cow that doesn't have anybody pulling at its tits? The milk dries up. You know, you got to have that. So you guys, thank you for being that. And, you know, I kind of don't want to stop talking, but I think I need to. It's just, you know, long enough. If there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. If not, let me just say I will not be teaching next weekend and possibly a bit longer. I'm going to have a neck brace on, and I was told that no rapid, you know, movements of my neck. And it's often when I teach, there's this, you know, these crazy things that a lot of you have as well. And I don't want to have that until my neck is healed. So for a week, 2, 3, 4, I really don't know. I will not be teaching. I will send out a notice to all of you when the next class is. And, you know, I guess I could give you all an update, but no update is probably a good update. And I have to say, quite honestly, I'm not all that engaged in this operation. It's what it is. If it turns out to be a dramatic thing, so be it. I'm expecting that not to be the case. And so I don't want to have to give weekly updates. And I'm also not looking for all of you to reach out to me with any kind of anything. I don't, just, it's another Thursday. So I'll be back in touch the moment I am able to. And ideally we'll continue this. And I also would love to be able to bring this particular group back here to my house. It turns out the patio now is shaded enough that we could actually have a class outside with distancing. So it's possible that we could actually get together, and as long as we didn't hug, I suppose, we could all, you know, sit outside and actually be in the same space. And we have lots of tables, so you can eat at different tables. So that's kind of my hope. That's kind of, I'm holding that out as sort of a September, early October wish. And we'll see. And those of you who are adverse to that, totally get it. Those of you who want to show up, that'll be great. But anyway, it's always hard to find the final line, the last line of a movie. You spend years trying to get what's the last line of the movie. And, you know, if you don't wake up in the middle of the night with it, you're in trouble. Anyway, I don't have a last line. All I can tell you is if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, I'll see you somewhere down the road. Questions?
Yeah, I hope that in your next class, you'll be still looking for your next line and we'll all be able to see.
That may be how it works, George. Thank you. George, also happy 79th birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel, the more I get older, the more impermanence I feel also. So.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely the road. I mean, impermanence is the key teaching of Buddha, and one does live into that experience. And it is not easy. It's just not easy. And I kind of understood that the reason Rudy said this is life's work is because at the end of it is where it all comes into play. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Bruce,
I met you when we thought it was the end of it, and I was reading the Tibetan book.
Bruce, can you hear me? Will. Something I've been thinking about since your talk last week, particularly the gun pointed at your head metaphor that you threw up. And then this week, the just live side of what you're presenting here. And thinking about that in relationship to that. When you talked last week about the conditions that we're kind of facing, and this is the idea that beyond next week, which we're all going to be thinking about you in, many of us obviously are going to have to live beyond next week. And in the current conditions that you were sort of describing, which could get very, very bad, when you started to talk about a gun pointed at your head, I wasn't thinking of one's personal death. I was thinking about what if the government, if you will, comes for you, or the conditions come for you where you have a gun pointed at your head. And do you see what I mean? It's a little bit of a different version of that. And I can't help thinking of or wondering what your advice, I don't know, advice or take on the idea of resistance and facing the things that may come our way in terms of even action. And another thing that comes to mind is Arjuna, right, in the Bhagavad Gita, he has to fight. He has no alternative. Do you know what I mean? And he has to choose a side he's going to fight on. And I can also even remember another, I'm sorry to give you some background to it, but I can remember a point, I told you that, obviously I became involved in this ashram at 19 years old. And around 2023, I started to wonder whether being in the ashram was so productive for me. And that got connected to the idea of action and living too. When we say just live, we mean actually an active living, right? That can cause problems, right? And it causes you to grow and all of that. Do you see what the form of my question is?
I do feel it, and I think about it every day. And I think about, what does one do? The only thing I have that's operating inside is this, again, directive. I have a real guidance system that speaks to me, and it will. It is a complicated thing. I'll put it out in a very stupid way. Do I put a Biden-Harris sign out on my front lawn? Do I put a Black Lives Matter sign on my lawn? I am surrounded by redneck territory, truly, by people who have real animosity and guns, and who do not like my particular point of view. And I can put the signs out and open the door up to something or not. I have not resolved that issue. I have people on both sides of the equation talking to me about it. I don't know the right thing. My psyche says, put it out there. Another part of me says, for what? For what? And when I was 20 years old, I marched for civil rights. I was so involved in the civil rights movement back in my young days, and it was the right thing at the right time, and it was the right movement for me. I think I told this story. I was pushing over a police car to protest a meeting of Dean Rusk down by the Hilton Hotel in New York, and a policeman on a horse came over with a club and went like that, dented the police car, and just missed my hand by seconds. When I told Rudy what happened, he said, "I don't want you going to any more demonstrations." He said, don't do demonstrations. I can only tell you that. If he were alive today, I don't know what he would say. I will tell you, at the age of 77, demonstrations, especially in a time of COVID, doesn't feel like the right movement for me. My inside kind of says, you can do what you want. It's not saying don't do this and don't do that. Just know there will be consequences, and some may be more painful than others. I am very aware that what we face in the next 3 to 4 months may be an upheaval at the level we have never, ever witnessed before. It is, I said last week, we are entering reality. We are entering into a time of reality that my parents experienced partly with the Great Depression, but definitely with the start of World War II. Everything was thrown up into the air. People quit their jobs to join the Army and the Air Force and the Navy, and put their lives in jeopardy, and often to lose them for that reality which occurred. We are entering that kind of moment, maybe. It feels possible. What do we do? I am not a teacher who can provide the answer. I just cannot. I can only tell you Go inside and hear what your directive is and follow it and trust it. If it's saying you can put down that cup, you don't have to drink it now, don't drink it. If it's saying you're saying take this cup from my lip, and it's saying no, this is yours, then drink it. This is where we have to be in alignment with ourself, our deepest self. And if you're getting conflicting messages, you have to go deeper. But this is really the time in our lives where who we are is on the line, who we want to be in our own mind, in our own sense of self, how true we want to be to our deepest self is really at the core. And we're really facing it. This is not just hypothetical life anymore, or reality, or you can just kind of move yourself through the day and not have to think about big issues. Big issues have come to us. We are on the front line, and if not yet, in 72 days or whatever it is, we will be on some kind of front line or not. If we're not, thank God. If we are, what do we do? I'll be talking to you if I'm around before that, and I'll tell you how I'm processing it. But, I don't know that I am the voice that you should listen to. In fact, I would pretty much say I'm not the voice you should listen to, unless all I present you with is possibilities that you can look at clearly. But I don't have the answer. Each of us has to find the answer for us, and we are going to be forced to do that. It is coming at us. When you're 77, it's a little bit different than if you're 47 or 67 or 28, or what. It's different for everybody. How my children react, how my grandchildren react, I have no idea. But this is not the life we imagined quite, but it has been brewing for a while. It's coming to a froth, and we are going to watch what happens. I wish I had an answer, but I do feel you have the capacity to do the thing that Will Pappenheimer has to do, whatever that may be, that you can and will live with. And what you can live with is part of the guidance system. If it says do this and you say no, I don't care if it's even to just picking up a piece of paper off the floor. When you say no to it, it checks that off. It goes, and when you go yes, it goes click. And we are meant to be responsible to something, and it's operating in us. And the one thing we have learned through spiritual discipline and practice over all this time is to hear the voice. Hear the voice. The smart move is to listen to it. Some of us do, some of us don't. I will tell you, as I've gotten older, it's louder than ever, and it's more, I don't say it's punishing, but it's really clear when you don't listen. If you say something hurtful, it's not like you just did it and you can brush it off and it falls into the ether. You are now locked into the being that said something hurtful. You have to do something to wash that away, or atone, if you will. Find something to move beyond it. Mostly what it is say, I'm sorry. That's the real teaching. It's not hard. You just go, I shouldn't have said that. I really apologize. When you find that way of living, that way of being atoning for your sins by apologizing, by acknowledging, by asking for forgiveness, you live a life that is in attunement with the larger directive. But we all have these moments of misbehaving, if you will. I will tell you, as you move toward the end of things, those moments, there's spotlight shining on them. And if you don't learn it at that point, you don't learn it. And I guess maybe if there's such a thing as, rebirth and new lives, you come back to learn those lessons. My feeling is just learn it now. Just pay attention. Just do the thing it says. Listen to the kindness and the goodness in yourself. It will direct you as far as you need to go. But anyway, that's a long answer to your question. I don't know. You can put out your Biden sign and your Black Lives Matter sign and your this only love lives in this house sign. Those or not. In certain areas, they are going to cause conflict. And I live in one of those areas. So do I want that? I also have lots of big windows right off the road. So do I want that? And I live with somebody else, my wife. We have to make those decisions. I don't think they're life and death decisions at all. But I think those are things to think about at a time where we are going to be called into account on big levels, and things that we take for granted as being the norm are no longer going to be the norm. Things we love are going to be removed. It's going to be a very new time. I'm projecting. My prayer is that I'm wrong. That we all go back to simplicity and goodness and the kindness of the human race. That's my prayer. We'll see. Okay, you all exhausted? Sorry, I do know this is a crossroads on some level, and we're at it, and we didn't think we bargained for it, but we did. We were born now. We're in the world now. Each one of us can scoot by, live quietly, separate ourselves from the drama. You can do that, but you may not like the world you're living in, and you may not like how constrained you feel because of it. On the other hand, it is possible, I think, for almost all of us to live a life in such simplicity and quietude that we're not impacted by all of what goes on. On the other hand, is your soul and your psyche comfortable with that? Question for you, not anybody else. Lots of love. I think I'll see you guys if all goes well, in a few weeks or a month or whatever it may be. Have a wonderful rest of the summer, August, September. Take care of yourselves. I am available by email, by text. I will get back to you to the best that I can. And, I might even try doing some talks. And if I do, I'll just send the word out that I just gave a talk without yet doing a class. Otherwise, I'll get back as fast as I can, and you'll all know when that is.